Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Saturday, July the 12th, 2025, and today's topic is a continuation of a deep dive into figure drawing from imagination, and this one will be about gesture and rhythm. But before we begin, welcome back if you're returning and welcome if you're new to the channel. I sketch and post every day and I use a timer to stay focused and to build a habit. I'll start a 10-minute timer and I'll link to yesterday's video where I didn't sketch this was the inspiration for it. It started off as 1-minute sketches, like for each of the figures. I don't recommend using a timer if you're still learning. A timer is helpful, in my opinion, to sort of overcome resistance, but also if you know what you're doing, it adds like another level of challenge. But if you're still learning, then I would take my time to learn it. And also a timer helps if you want to track like a certain amount of time, like how much time you're spending on something, like that kind of thing, or to like take a break or something. But yeah, like for example, I'm going to go over like what I did here, but I'm not going to like use a timer other than the one that I'm using to let me know like how long these videos are. But with that said, I'll go ahead and show you what I've got so you can see, because a picture's worth 1,000 words, as they say. But this is what I mean by gesture and rhythm, so I'll just go over that today. And it's a combination of the construction and proportions, which is what yesterday was about. And they go together. I'm just sort of separating these ideas to focus on them, which can sometimes be helpful. Let's begin. And I'll keep revisiting these topics. To begin with, let's talk about what is gesture and rhythm. So I started with construction and proportion because I feel like one, that's probably the easiest thing to kind of teach. And so you can check out yesterday's video to get more details. Plus I have a figure drawing playlist, but just to get warmed up. And since we're talking about figure drawing, I'll just kind of use like the human figure, obviously. So like it kind of represents like the skeleton. So for example, if I just do this, you don't have to be that sketchy with it, or you can just use a pencil. But yeah, this is just to get warmed up. So if I do this, that's like the proportion. And you can use different shapes. I did a series on shapes. So you can doodle some shapes. These are just lines and shapes. And it's like the skeleton. So that's basically proportion. And I'm just wanting to get warmed up real quick. But the other thing is that so that's just like a stick figure, and you can, I mean, it's pretty fun to draw stick figures, and you can like draw it however. And I just know how to do this particular thing, and it's not like that realistic, but it's kind of realistic, and that's like what proportion is. It's just up to you. I mean, you can change it up. You can have like a more cartoony look to it. The Incredibles or whatever. The little legs. And these are just shapes. The proportions is controlling like the shapes, like the size of the shapes and stuff. And like, yeah, like the look of it. The idea of gesture, it implies movement. So for example, like the definition of gesture would be like if you were to wave. So let's say like this is an arm right here. So we'll just say that that's an arm. You wouldn't really say that that's a gesture, that's the pose. But if the arm, the person, were to gesture someone to approach, so you would just say, like, let's say that they make a gesture to approach them. Like, how would you draw that? Like, that's the question. That's the point. So it could be like this. for example. So that's like a gesture. So it implies movement, obviously. So, and another way, like, to kind of think about it is like the gesture is being caused by like the muscles. And so just to move into sort of like what I did here, is you'll notice that the proportion itself, they're not really doing anything. Here, it implies that the muscles are moving. So that might be a good way to think about it, is that for it to have a gesture, it means that something is moving, like the skeleton. You don't necessarily have to draw like the muscles. That's where the shapes come in, because these shapes are coming from like the deltoids and stuff like that. They're just simplified. So same with this, the forms. I mean, this is just a shape. It's not really even like the form is the fact that like I outlined it. It gives it a form. It implies that that's like the shadow right here. But the shape of it is actually coming from the fact that the muscles are over the bones of the body. So but that's like anatomy, but that's like the basic idea. So here's like the gesture. The idea of gesture implies like movement. It's the muscles are doing something. So if the body is moving, it creates like this chain reaction. So just an example is, let's say that I draw like kind of a line like this. And that could be anything, since we're focusing on the human figure. We'll just kind of see if we can make a figure out of this. So if something's moving, it creates like a chain reaction in the body, since the body has to balance itself. So if something goes here, then, so this is like the gesture, like this curved line. It suggests movement, versus if it's just like this straight line right here. Like the figure, let's make this into a figure, like they're not doing anything. So they're just kind of standing there. And I'm just using these circles for today. It really just depends on your mood for like the mannequin. So you wouldn't really say that they're gesturing or that there's a gesture to that. They're just standing, like they're posing. But as soon as you like do this, add like a curve. It doesn't have to be a curve. It could be an angle. Kind of like, it could just be, so it could look like anything. But since we are thinking about like the human figure, we can turn it into something. But I wanted to start just by saying like, okay, like that's like the gesture of it. So let's just kind of define some things. So the rhythm could actually be used for like the standing figure right here, because the rhythm is like this. So one way to maybe explain it is, like if I were to draw like a mountain range, you wouldn't really say that a mountain was gesturing. It's just like standing there, it's just there. Maybe a way to explain it is, let's say I draw like a straight line like this. Let's pretend that this is like a wave sound, like this. If there was a tone, like a sound, and it just had no breaks in it, no peaks, then you couldn't really tell the rhythm. It's just one sound. But as soon as there's like different peaks like this, then there's a rhythm to that. So maybe that makes some sense. So that's what I mean by rhythm. You wouldn't really say that it's gesturing, but it has like a certain rhythm to it. Same with like clouds, like they have like a kind of rhythm. But notice that the lines could be curved versus like angular. But there's a rhythm to clouds. Now clouds can also have gestures because they're moving. So there could be like some clouds that are more like this. Like they're kind of moving. But just to apply it to the human figure, so notice that this figure is kind of moving, but like the legs aren't really gesturing, they're just kind of there, like they're just standing there, but there's like a rhythm. So if they didn't have a rhythm, so let's say that you have this shape, they wouldn't really look like legs. They're just there. But what makes them look kind of like legs is if it goes out like this. And even you can change like the rhythm here. You can say that like this, see? As soon as you change like the rhythm, so this is curved and then this is curved, or like it goes out and then this goes out and then this goes out. Or you could have this part going outwards, then this part it goes outwards, but like there's a rhythm to it versus not having a rhythm, which is just a straight line. But that's just something to kind of think about. It's the same with like the mountains. If I had this straight line that just went like this, like that's what makes it look different. And even then, like, see the rhythm of these right here, it looks a little bit more like trees than the mountains, for example. It's just something to just play around with and kind of notice, like in different drawings and stuff. So with that said, let's go back to this. So for stuff like this is all from imagination, by the way. So stuff like this has like a lot of doodling, which I like that's my favorite thing to do. But you can kind of do the same thing here. You can have something like this, like a gesture, and just make something up. I don't really know. So a gesture can kind of keep going. Like it can sort of keep going like in whatever direction that it was going, but then it's the proportion that controls. So like even like right here, like now that I did that, like I can start to see something. So let's just kind of make something so like this, where the proportion, like we were saying, or yeah, like I was saying, like it's sort of like the skeleton, so it creates the constraint. So it's what's stopping like the gesture. Like the hands right here. Kind of like this. Like, so the gesture was just this like arc. See? But it's the proportion that's giving it like constraints. And then it's the rhythm. So for example, let's say like this is just a straight line right here. It's like the in and out kind of shapes. So it's sort of like this. But the reason it's this exact like length is because of the proportion, which can look different. I mean, you can exaggerate or make it look more realistic or whatever. But this all started like the pose started from like the gesture, kind of like this. Now there's things that you can do, like this is, I think, a good exercise in and of itself, but you can use this to draw like poses of characters and stuff. But to begin with, I think it's good to understand what's happening here. Like this is just inventing, like this is drawing is what it is, but from imagination, like specifically. So you see how like it all started with like that one line. Now this is a little bit more advanced than, let's say, just drawing standing figures like this. That's why I started with that. So make sure that this is, I would recommend making sure that you understand this part like completely. There's no rush. So then this is just giving it more movement. So another example could be like, see right here, I can kind of see like a figure right here. So let's just make that into like the arm. But it could have been anything. I mean, it could have been another like object. We're just drawing figures. So same with this. So this is what started the gesture. And now we're going to use like the proportions to control the movement. It's like, because the gesture is like the energy of it, like the kinetic energy. But the energy is being constrained by like the body. Kind of like this. And the rhythm, just to go back to that idea. So the rhythm is like, it's where like, just like in the mountain example here, it's like the breaks, like the peaks. So the rhythm could be like this. So basically that's like mountains. It's just shapes at the end of the day. Same with this, like if you're wondering, okay, well, where's the other arm? I mean, it could be up here. I mean, it's because the shape has like a rhythm to it. It could have been in a different position, but even like right here, we could, it's kind of up to you. I think that's a lot of information. I mean, that'll give you something to play around with. This is sort of exaggerated. It doesn't look bad. I mean, it looks pretty cool, but you could redraw it, because redrawing it is just this. It's just changing the shapes and like the proportions to however you want it to look. But the pose is right here, but we can go into that like in another video. But that'll be it for today. I want to thank you for joining me for our daily sketching routine. And if you enjoy these videos, please support the channel. And until next time, keep on sketching.